Disclaimer, F. Gardner's going to talk about some really heavy shit. So don't get mad. It's super controversial. This book I wrote, this horror novel, Kabbalah of the Crocodile, it entails the conspiracy theory about how the Jews created Christianity as a psyop to get everybody into worshiping the Jewish God. And I've been on all sorts of podcasts about this, about how, the main character in the book, he's finding out about this conspiracy theory and he can't believe it. He's shocked that the Jews did this, that they want to turn people into Noahides through Christianity to get them to worship the Jewish God. And so I hear people talk about noticing. They'll say they're noticers, that they notice the Jewish question, the JQ, that topic. And why are noticers much of the time, why don't they notice this conspiracy theory? They don't notice how controlled opposition works. If something is controlled opposition, that means controlling people and making them think they're opposing you. So people will say things like, wait, so the Jews psyoped themselves into being the villain? Well, think about it. That would be controlled opposition in the sense of like, you control them, but there being an ulterior motive to make people Noahides and follow the Torah and worship the Jewish God and abandon other gods, like getting pagans, other whatever religions, getting them to abandon the other gods, the old gods and stuff like that. And this gets brushed under the rug. It's like people don't notice how controlled opposition works in this sense. And you'll have Christians often say, oh, but look at the Talmud. They mock Jesus. They mock Christianity. And it's like they don't realize that the Talmud, it mocks paganism. It mocks pagans more than it does Christianity. And Christians will often get mad when you point that out. And it's like, well, why are you getting mad? Well, it's like you want them to mock you. And I guess it's because they think it reinforces like, look, it's proof that this is the real religion. The Jews mock us. And then Jews will do the same thing. Jews will then say, oh, look, the Christians are mocking us. That proves we're the chosen people. So the Jews do the same thing, basically. What a coincidence. Why don't people notice that? That's something you should be noticing. And it gets people like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion talks about how the Jews want to become like a protected class. So it's like they could use stuff like that to create things like the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. That sounds like exactly what's going on. People don't notice that. So it's the same thing going on with like how Jews and Christians, they both will say one hates the other, thinking it proves their religion. And Christians don't even notice that, paganism is mocked far more in the Talmud. And Judaism, the Jews, they believe there needs to be this middle transitional religion to bring about Noahidism. That the Gentiles need to they need to follow the Torah. They need to acknowledge their holy book, the Torah, and God of Israel, Jewish God, without converting to Judaism. Because the Jews believe Judaism is exclusively for Jews, but that a Gentile can become a Noahide. And they think, the Jews believe that there's this middle transitional stage where the Gentiles get weaned off of idolatry, that they're gradually made into Noahides. But that this middle transitional stage of this Noahide religion will still have the worship of God in the form of a man. That it'll still have that element of idolatry, because it's the middle stage that weans Gentiles off of paganism, idolatry. And then eventually there's full-blown Noahidism, that there's two stages. So the Moshiach, the Messiah, that there's Ben Joseph or Ben Yosef, then Ben David, so that it's first this middle transitional stage where it's, okay, the Torah and worship of the God of Israel, Yahweh. But it still has this element of idolatry, God in the form of a man for the worship. So it still has that. It's weaning the Gentiles away from that, but it still has that element. It's semi-Noahidism. And then the Ben David part, where it's full-blown Noahidism, enslavement of Gentiles, and eventually, destruction, all the end times stuff that Jews believe in. It's like a script they're following. I don't believe there's such a thing as idolatry. I'm a Buddhist. I converted from Catholicism to Buddhism. So I worship many gods. I worship many Buddhist gods. I don't worship the Jewish God. I don't worship Jesus or Yahweh. So even the Bible uses terms like the God of Israel, the God of Zion, Yahweh, Yeshua. Those are all Jewish names. Yet people will say, oh, Jesus wasn't Jewish. He wouldn't have even been allowed inside of temples back then if he wasn't a Jew. And he was teaching like a Pharisee, like in the temples. Only a rabbi does that, a Pharisee. And people will say, oh, well, rabbi, that just means teacher or master. No, sensei, like a Japanese term, that means like master or teacher. Rabbi specifically means somebody teaching Judaism, like in a temple, like to other Jews. So it doesn't just mean teacher or master. So this totally serves the purpose of like Noahidizing the Gentiles, getting them to abandon their old gods. Some people, when they find out about this rabbit hole, they become pagan. Like whatever, Norse or Roman or Greek polytheism. I became Buddhist. Next point I want to talk about, Peter and Paul. Peter and Paul, they worked for Gamaliel, the leader of the historical Sanhedrin, the ecumenical gathering of Pharisees, and they were his like high-level agents. Gamaliel hated Gentiles, and there was this movement back then. If you research this deep enough, you find there's this movement back then to get Gentiles, the Romans, to get rid of the Roman religion, that the Jews wanted to Judaize Romans, Gentiles, and to introduce the Torah. But they needed to do that without making them convert to Judaism, since they believe that it's only Jews that have the right to be Jews, that only they can that conversion, it's not like other religions where you convert. That is, they believe that Gentiles need to be Noahides. Everything I'm describing, Christianity completely fits this. And people are in denial about that. They brush it under the rug. People will say, like, I'll see Stu Peters almost every day, it feels like. He'll say, oh, but Jesus whipped the Jews. He'll say stuff like that he whipped the Jews in the temple. That's not what the Bible says. It doesn't sound like he's even read his own holy book. People that say that. It says Jesus, he got like a cord and made a makeshift whip, and he whipped the animals in the temple to cause them to like jump over the tables. It never says Jesus used a whip on the Jews. It never says that. Yet people will constantly parrot that. Oh, the word nation and goyim, it's the same word. So like, all these verses in the Torah and the Bible saying, oh, the Messiah is gonna conquer the nations. That means conquer the goyim. It's the same word, nation and goyim. Goyim's the derogatory term for Gentiles, like it's a slur. What a coincidence. It's the same word. It's saying the Gentiles, the goyim, they're going to be conquered when that word is used. Yeah, nations. So, okay, this is a very heavy rabbit hole, really deep. It's really deep shit. People get so fucking mad if you talk about this. People will say, oh, you're blaspheming, or they'll condemn you for talking about this. Something's either true or it's not. People will say, oh, don't go down that rabbit hole. That's a black pill. Okay, the black pill and the white pill, they're the same thing. It just depends on how you react to the information, how you take it, how you handle it and cope with it. If somebody has a bad reaction and feels black-pilled, that's on them. That's how they reacted. You either want the truth or you don't. You know, despite everything I'm saying, I'm honestly a pretty live and let live guy about most things in life. Even religion. Like, I'm a Buddhist. I've realized not many people in the West are Buddhist. You know, I could respect if somebody disagrees, if they have a different opinion, as long as they're civil to me. You know, that's just how it is. This often upsets people. So, I'm not trying to upset people, but at the same time, I don't care. Because, like, I believe in freedom of speech, and I believe in the truth. I believe that free speech and the truth, that those are paramount, that those are more important than if somebody's just upset. I'm a Buddhist. I don't want to upset people, but, you know, if somebody's upset, that's just how they reacted. I don't have control over how they react. You get the point. You get the gist of it. Yeah, so I've been on lots of shows about this. After writing this book, I write horror novels that can be read in any order. My series is called Horror's Call. This book, Kabbalah of the Crocodile, it's about a guy in Chicago finding out about this conspiracy theory. He encounters these evil Talmudic rabbis, and it's really scary. He's finding out about this dark rabbit hole. This is, I guess it's the darkest rabbit hole that exists. And it's the most feared rabbit hole. The one that even so-called truthers often ignore, often brush under the rug, often dismiss and say, oh no, you could look into anything, but not that. That one's off limits. Don't look into that. Well, F. Gardner looks into everything. There's nothing F. Gardner rules out. And finding out about this conspiracy theory, long story short, I'm a Buddhist. I became Buddhist. I worship many gods, but not the Jewish God. Yeah, so that the ultimate goal of that's the biggest rabbit hole of them all in terms of the JQ, is that the Jews want to turn everyone, the Gentiles, into Noahides. They want to get them following, acknowledging their Torah and Jewish God, and abandoning everything else, all the other gods. That's all for now. Super, super duper controversial rabbit hole, I know, but I don't care. I will talk about even the most controversial topics, even the most controversial rabbit holes, conspiracy theories, whatever. My books are very controversial. They're horror novels, and horror novels often involve conspiracy theories, urban legends, and a lot of those are true. Yeah, don't rule anything out. Look into everything, investigate everything. Peace out, everybody. Bye.